Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Luss, joined by the one, the only, Mike, Right Eye Krevchenko. What is up, Mike?
What's up, Dan? Another new nickname, another week. What can you, I guess, give some context? I guess what would right eye mean?
You know, it's a distant relative of Lisa Left Eye Lopez, but your right eye, it's looking good today. So I just wanted
All
to
right,
make sure I shouted it out.
thank you.
Um, cool. No reason, absolutely no reason. Just sometimes things pop into my brain, and we let them happen. So you're gonna hear me being a little congested, but rain, sleet or shine, rain, snow or shine. I think that's the expression. We're here. We're battling. So when you have two kids under the age of 6, sometimes you just get random illnesses and they just pop up. And my wife, my lovely wife, who might be listening to this again, like I told you, listen, she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say whatever I want. My wife is a birthday person. So I mentioned, well, we shouted her out last week on the podcast. It was her birthday. Let's just say she's had 2 birthday dinners. The second one is tonight. So it's a birthday person. When you're figuring out what type of woman you want to marry, sometimes you want to marry someone that's a birthday person because they appreciate it. Okay, so you just got to know what you're signing up for. It's not this is not good. It's not bad. Just there are different people in the world. I am low maintenance, not a birthday person. Now some might say that I've just called my wife high maintenance. I have not said that. I definitely didn't say that, but fortunately, she doesn't listen to the podcast, so it's not a problem. Love you, Rachel. Happy birthday for the second time. Anyway, so we got a couple loose ends to tie up. So I guess first and foremost, we'll talk about the Knicks at the end of the podcast. So Alex Volcano, the mystery relationship to Sal Volcano, who I still have not figured this out how they are related. That is Sal Volcano from Impractical Jokers. Yeah, he came on the podcast. I said, research any bet that you want. And for our listeners last week, they'll remember that the bet that Alex picked was Pacers plus 4.5 in Madison Square Garden for Game 5. I thought that was Alex is a New Yorker, I thought that was an insane pick. We thought the Knicks were going to win. They did. We had this fun thing that John Halliburton would be the storyline for Game 6. He wasn't really. It was just a shellacking, and the Knicks got destroyed. We'll talk about the end of the podcast, I guess, if time permitting, about this. At least in our parts, this very controversial firing of Tom Thibodeau. But we pour one out for the Knicks. No one really cares about basketball anymore. And if you're a Pacers fan or you're a Thunder fan, I'm sorry, the basketball world is not paying attention. It's pretty sad. I miss the days where the NBA was rigged and they would get the big market teams in the finals, and then we'd be good, Mike. We'd be totally good. Someone's got to tell that to Silver.
Yeah, I know. This is good. You know what? I guess I'm not a huge fan of the big market teams always winning. Even though we're in New York, so we don't really get that luxury. But I think this is going to be definitely one of the lowest viewed finals maybe in history. That'll be my guess.
You know what? Someone should send a memo to the commissioner's office that a big market team, aka the one in New York, hasn't won in 50 years. So I think we're due. I think we're due for a little bit of rigging. Like we may have got Ewing in the rigged lottery, but like that was a long time ago. I'm ready for it to be rigged again. Okay, I'll try not to sniffle that much. I am battling through the elements. So Monday, I wasn't really sick. Maybe like something was coming along. Wasn't like 100% positive. I spent the whole day. Actually, um, Mike, do you follow my personal Instagram account? Do you have any questions as to any content I posted in the last like 5 days?
I do have some questions.
Ask them. Ask
I,
ask me anything, Mike. Ask me.
um, are you? How are you feeling? Is it in context to some of the Instagram stories that were posted this past week and or weekend, I suppose?
Oh,
And how was it getting down from some objects? Did you get down safely?
oh, that sounded bad. I'm happy you put that context in. Um, I think it's probably the reason I'm a little bit sick now. So back in the day, as a young sports law lost, uh, I was in a fraternity back in the day. I'd like to say, you know, I partook in some extracurriculars. I had my fair share of fun. Um, and so we had on Friday. we had someone's one of the mom's birthdays in town. So this is how politics work in at least in Westchester County, New York, where I'm from. There are different friend groups, and the friend groups sometimes are just, I mean, sometimes they're just based on people you like in town, but generally, and hopefully everyone can relate to this, like the kids that your kid is friends with, their parents generally end up being your friends. Like whether you like them or not, you're kind of stuck with them with play dates and this and that, and you hope that they're nice people. And if they're really bad people, sometimes you get in your kid's ear and you're like, hey, that kid, they're no good. We got to get rid of them. We're not hanging out with them anymore. Um, but do enough things in the weekends, and eventually your kids just kind of look around and they've seen these people their whole lives, so they become friends. So in our town, we have two girls. So we're a part of the 3-year-old girl group and the 5-year-old girl group. So every once in a while, the group will get together. And last Friday, the 3-year-old girl group, one of the moms of the 3-year-old girl group, said, and I'm happy to admit this on the podcast. I'm happy to admit this. I said, let's run it back. Let's turn back the clock, and let's go to Mike. You ready for this?
Please.
It was in the Instagram story, which is not public, but it is what it is. We'll say a place in the city called La Poisson Rouge. Are you familiar with this establishment?
No, I'm actually not at all.
There's probably a handful of people that are listening to this podcast, and they're saying to themselves, that's insane. How old is Dan? Why was he there? Was he the oldest person there? The answer to all of those questions is yes. I probably wasn't the oldest because there's definitely people older than me in my group, but neither here nor there. But we ran it back, Mike. We ran it back. We took the train into the city, and we got a babysitter for the night. And let's just say Friday night, it was a very late night in the Sports of Lust household. So whatever, we do our thing. We went to this place called the Acme Bar after. It's a kind of hip. I don't know if La Poisson Rouge is that hip. It's a little young, but we're hanging out in the. We got a little roped off area in the back. I wouldn't say it's like the baller area because there's like bubbles. And it's like not that type of scene. We went to the Acme Bar after, and pictures were mad. Pictures were had. If you know, you know. That's it. That's all I can say. But I got probably more comments on a story that I posted in like since the birth of a child, which meant that the picture was, I think, cool. I think it was cool. I think so. Or they're like, this guy's insane. One of the two. So anyway, after a night like that, you need a couple days of recovery. But here's the problem, Mike. And then we'll wrap this up quick. Hopefully people appreciate it. You just try to give life lessons with the sports lessons. Mike, your kids don't take a break from the action. So you can get back very late, right? We got back very late at night into the wee early hours of the next day. And as we got home, our daughter, who had gone to sleep at a very normal hour, like 7:38, had just woken up from a nightmare. So I had to come home, took the Uber home. Then I had to deal with the nightmare. So sleep was very much lacking. And then we had to wake up at 7 in the morning because the other child wakes up early. And then, Mike, from there, it was 6 hours of dance recitals. 6 hours. How could it be 6 hours? I'm not sure, but that's what it was. I still really wasn't that recovered on Monday. Then I got sick and blah, 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 blah. But it's all good. So I was at to make matters so much more fun, I had some clients in town, won't say any names, but from California and Florida last night, and your boy was not feeling well. He was maybe at like 65%, still recovering because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I had to go into the city. I had to do what I had to do and got home very late last night. I woke up this morning. I'm like, I cannot do this to my body. And it was going out twice in like a 5-day period, which is not that impressive. But yeah, that's what happens when you turn old, Mike. You lose it. You lose your fastball a little bit. You can come up with sliders, curveballs. You got to get through with guile, a little bit of Greg Maddux, outsmarting the opposition. But your fastball's gone. You're not doing any Randy Johnson. You're not going out back to back to back nights. So that's why we're here. We're cooking. Always, Mike, I'm not going to flake. I'm a lot of things. I'm not a flake, but we show up to the podcast. Mike, does that scare you for adulthood? Does it scare you?
No,
Gravity is real, Mike.
It's good insight, actually. I appreciate knowing early on. I mean, I'm definitely not a partier, so we'll see where we're at your ripe age, but we got some time.
Okay, good. Let us get into the fun stuff, and then we'll roll right into the topics. Podcast sponsored by Themis Bar Review, top bar prep company in the galaxy. I was, speaking of bar nights, trying to get Themis to arrange another bar night, And they said last time was so much fun, Dan, but now we're Themis. We're like the top bar prep company in the galaxy. Can't be having bar nights. You, Dan, as conduct detrimental, you guys can do the bar night after. We are going to handle the sponsoring of the really fancy Breaking Into Sports career panel. But you guys got to do the bar night. So that's the latest. We will figure out exactly what goes on with that. But shout out to Themis. Themis is the best. Now, I've had this promo code for a while. I haven't given it out. And I probably, maybe, possibly should have given out this promo code a couple months ago. But Mike, here's your job. I'm going to tell it to you, and you're going to write it down. You're always going to remind me. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
This code is good until July. Okay?
Okay.
You want to know what the code is?
We got 20.
CD800. Okay? Okay? It's good, allegedly, for an $800 discount if you're a listener of this podcast. That's a lot of money.
Okay.
It's a lot of money. Do you know how much money that is, Mike? That is so much money that it would almost afford the amount of money I dropped yesterday entertaining clients in the city. Almost.
That's incredible. That's
almost. Listen,
much needed then.
We got good friends. I have good friends, and I'm like, hey guys, dinner's on me. And they're like, can we go to a really expensive restaurant? And I'm like, I did say dinner was on me, so sure. And then, that's all good until you get the bill. And then you hope the firm helps you cover that. But good clients, good people. Your boy's dying very slowly. Okay. In any event, Mike, let us get to the fun stuff, the topics of the day. This is a weird one. I got a lot of the emails, people sending this to me. And it's not a topic you see every day. Like, we're going to talk on this podcast, a little bit of a roadmap. We're going to talk about the FBI inquiry into the Major League Baseball Players Association. We're going to talk about the latest with Zion Williamson, a rape charge. Tony Busby was involved. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about Trevor Bauer and an update in his case. And then we'll try to keep this episode fairly tight because I am fading, Mike. And of course, I'm playing golf tomorrow morning. So I gotta save a little bit in the tank, Mike.
Good luck with that. On the course with that.
Listen, when clients ask you to play golf, you just got to go. You got to make up the billable hours later. I don't sleep. I probably have to change this routine if I'm going to live, but it is what it is, Mike. It is what it is. Okay, but that said, we're going to talk about Zion, and not to make light of it, but we've had situations where athletes have been accused of sexual assault before. It sounds bad. We've seen it before. Obviously not with Zion Williamson, but we'll talk about that. Trevor Bauer is not any new topic to the show. We've covered him for 3-4 years. We'll cover the update there. What is going on with the FBI's investigation into the Major League Baseball Players Association and the NFL Players Association is not like anything I've ever heard of. And you combine, a $2 billion company that is one team partners, and we'll talk about the whole kind of setup momentarily. You talk about Redbird Capital. You talk about Tony Clark, the head of the Players Association, hiring outside counsel. You talk about a federal court inquiry in the Eastern District of New York. It's a lot of elements that we haven't seen. So, Mike, I am going to take the lead with this. All I'm asking for, what are your thoughts when you saw this? What are your thoughts when you saw it? I had a reaction. I'm curious what you were thinking.
Immediately, it always raises red flags when unions are involved, especially when they're acting like businesses. I mean, here it seems they're just going across the board. The duties and normal, I would say, standard operating procedure of what you would think a players association or players union would be. This is not it. So it definitely raises some significant red flags, and then of course gets you just your mind racing about other sports and other possibilities. So it's just a lot on the board here and what's possibly happening.
Speaking of red flags, let's talk about Redbird Capital. So just for people to get a sense, and I don't want to bury the lead to make this seem like it's something bigger than it is. Right now, it's an FBI inquiry. It's not a lawsuit. There's no one being let out in handcuffs. Somehow, and we'll give credit to friend of the show, Don Van Natta, who's been on with us a couple times, one of ESPN's, I guess you call him an enterprise reporter. He covers the big heavy hitters. He's been on for Dan Snyder with us a couple times. I don't think I can quite call Jeff Passan a friend of the show, but we've DM'd a couple times. We have some mutual friends. he's not an enemy of the show, but those two broke the story together. Don's again the enterprise guy, and and Passon is the proverbial baseball guy. So they break the story together, and it seems like what happened for trying to figure this out and piece it together. A couple baseball players were reached out to by the FBI relating to this inquiry. So he and I listened to, and again, if you're curious, if you want a 40-minute podcast on this particular topic, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have an hour and a half commute every time I head into my main hub in Long Island, or if I'm taking the train. Big podcast guy. There's another podcast called The Varsity with John Orand. It's a sports business journal podcast. It's very good. Don Van Natta was a guest on that show. If the story progresses, I think we have enough goodwill with Don. We can get him on here. But I would certainly recommend listening to that. The episode came out yesterday. What seems to have happened is there was a whistleblower at the Major League Baseball Players Association that seemed to say, and this is according to Don's reporting, that the money that was being acquired. Okay, actually, let me take one step back. One Team Partners was an entity created by Major League Baseball Players Association and the NFL Players Association. It's essentially like the licensing entity to license out the NIL associated with those two players associations, and just kind of like centralize and I guess try to like do group deals with baseball and football, and try to like leverage the two of them together, which I get. Like, right, like you can imagine football entities that are investing in football players and baseball players. If you have one entity, it's just cheaper, less manpower, all that good stuff. So this entity apparently does very well. So Redbird Capital, I think anybody can fact check this. It doesn't really matter. Redbird Capital owned anywhere between 20 and 40% of the company. If memory serves, I think it was 40%. But they sold their interest in the company, or at least at least a portion of their interest in the company in 2022. And that was sold at a valuation, Mike, of $1.9 billion. So that's how much this entity's worth. This is huge money. Like you might say, oh, it's some fake kind of shell entity, and they're handling the licensing of these PAs. Like, who really cares about this? Apparently, it's huge, huge, huge money. Okay, so I give you that caveat. And this is, again, according to Don Van Natta's reporting. Those guys are both over at ESPN. And Don explained that there was seemingly, apparently, reportedly, a whistleblower at the Players Association that I guess seemingly told the FBI, or someone that anyway gets to the FBI, that money was being used improperly. So Tony Clark, the head of the PA, has hired his own counsel. The union has hired their own counsel. And now there's an investigation as to where that money went. So you could say, hey, this is a victimless crime. It's not really, right? If there's the Players Association of Major League Baseball and the NFLPA, and those guys in some way, shape, or form will benefit because of the extra money left on reserves, and instead, hypothetically, this money is going to line the pockets of those internally at the PA. Like, this is a really, really big issue. So just to close one final loop, Mike, and I'll give it to you, what it seems like happened, if we're wondering why this came out, and again, somewhat prematurely, right? They're just inquiries. No one's under arrest at this point, right? People have hired lawyers. It seems like the FBI reached out to certain players. I'm not sure why certain players and not others were reached out to. But again, me just piecing it together, it seems like those players are baseball players, and they reached out to Jeff Passan. Jeff Passan doesn't deal with enterprising FBI stories like Don Van Natta does. Jeff Passan picks up the phone. He's like, hey, Don, I just got this tip. Let's dig in. So that's where we're at. It's very early in the process. I don't want to say that this is some watershed moment in the history of baseball, blah, blah, blah. It's just something interesting that you have to take note of. That is one of these kind of transcending sports stories that we have to watch. Tony Clark, that position, the head of the union, it's not like a tenured life position. You can be out every couple of years, right? Like it's not a for life position. And Tony Clark has been on shaky ground at the head of the PA for many, many years. So we'll see what comes of it, right? Obviously everybody is innocent until proven guilty, all that fun stuff, all those fun carve-outs. But this type of story at the FBI level doesn't really happen. So we wanted to give you as much as we could on that topic.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think players are at least aware and, raising some red flags and, their representation as well? Getting it, even though it's super early in the process, do you think they're at least gearing up for some protection for themselves in any capacity?
I mean, listen, like there's and I don't know how the MLBPA conducts its business, but any large entity like that that's bringing in, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Here we have an entity that has $1.9 billion. That money has to be accounted for, right? So that was the reporting by ESPN that it was a whistleblower, and there are obviously, right, in any given context there are going to be credible whistleblowers and non-credible whistleblowers, but you don't start reaching out to professional baseball players en masse. It seems like a bunch were reached out to. You don't do that until you have some sense that this is a real legitimate lead for this particular fear. So I don't know. That's really it. And again, we put this on the radar. Not like we have some giant crescendo and some neat bow to tie into this, but it's not that dissimilar of the Shohei Ohtani stuff. I don't know, whenever we were doing this, Mike, at the beginning of last season, we said this is going to be a huge moment for baseball, and then it just kind of like was a dud because Major League Baseball covered it up. The difference, Mike. You ready for the difference here?
Yeah, please.
Major League Baseball as a league is very different than the Major League Baseball Players Association. So if the Players Association and the league are aligned on an issue, for example, right, hypothetically, Shohei Ohtani is one of our most marketable players. Let's sweep this bad boy under the rug. Let's blame the interpreter. They're aligned on that. Tony Clark, who's alleged to have been one of the central people to this alleged system of I don't even want to say anything to get in trouble, but he's apparently retaining his own counsel. They're pointing the finger directly at him. Major League Baseball is not aligned in this, so they're adversarial. So whatever the odds are at the Conduct Detrimental Resorts World Casino of this being swept under the rug, it's much less than the Shohei Ohtani saga. So we'll see. We'll see.
I like it. I just can't. I can't believe it's that's a headline that we received today. FBI investigating MLBPA 2025. It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's move on from that, Mike. We have another baseball story at the end of this, but your boy here is struggling. Need to blow my nose, Mike. So you're gonna take Zion, and next time I come on, I'm just gonna sound so much better. I hope. Okay, Mike, you're up.
Let's do it. Yeah, I hope he feels better and comes back. But yeah, the Zion story actually began when we were recording last on May 29th, just about a week ago, I suppose. But so a woman identified in the lawsuit as Jane Doe. The lawsuit was filed, a civil lawsuit, on May 29th against Zion Williamson in Los Angeles County Superior Court. The suit alleges that Williamson raped her twice in 2020 and subjected her to a pattern of abuse, including physical assaults, threats with a firearm, and instances of imprisonment across multiple states from 2020 to 2023. So Williamson's team, obviously, and himself have absolutely denied all allegations, labeling them as false, financially motivated, and lacking legitimacy. It's something that we've seen a significant pattern of in pretty much across all of professional sports, and even now digging into the NCAA especially. So in the lawsuit, though, they disclosed that the Jane Doe had previously sought millions in a settlement and vowed to countersue for damages, maintaining the relationship was consensual. So it gets really murky here. I mean, these are serious allegations that, if they are substantiated, I mean, could lead to significant legal and professional consequences with Zion, who's already kind of in the water. I mean, in his career, when on the court, I think he's electric or great. Not really the number one pick or next great one like he was touted to be, but his career has been flooded with controversy, whether it's through situations like this, social media, injuries, and I mean, in a civil case like this, obviously for something like rape and kidnapping, focusing on really the victim for the harm that's suffered rather than the criminal punishment is the key here. It'll be interesting if the Jane Doe can actually demonstrate that it's a lot, much more likely than not that it happened. But obviously, what Dan was mentioning as well, we offline and previously, Tony Busby's a name that came across the headlines even today as we were hopping on here, and that's a name that has been across this, podcast for as long as I can remember, really across many of the different lawsuits, the Deshaun Watson case, most notably. But in a related development, adult film actress Mariah Mills, who had reportedly had a relationship, it was all across social media, if you're not familiar with Zion, from 2018 to 2023. She was allegedly sought. She allegedly sought legal representation from the prominent attorney that we've covered all the time, Tony Busby, for a potential lawsuit against Zion Williamson. However, Busby came across the headlines today, had declined to take her case, citing a full caseload. So, these are significantly multifaceted, which is interesting to me. And obviously it's evolving, and serious allegations here in the civil suit. And yeah, Dan, I'm going to throw it over to you for your comments on.
Do I sound better? Is there less mucus in here? Can you hear the improvement?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, you're so nice. Okay, so we did cover this. This is a story dating back to July of 2023, so like 2 years ago. We did cover this, and I don't know if we have like the OG listeners. The first podcast I ever came on and joined with Wallach was probably around now, probably June of 2020. So about 3-4 months into COVID, and it was at the time the biggest Zion legal story, and that was when he was fighting with Prime Sports Marketing. And this was pre-NIL. The question was whether the contract was legit or not. It's a subject I teach in my law school class still, but interesting, right? And then Zion, Mike, to your point, and don't worry, I was listening to the whole thing. I blasted you on the speakers. Just had to run, get some quick papers over here. We're good. Zion's he went from like can't miss prospect to kind of like, he's good, but there's just this kind of like constant, stench of like, disappointed expectations. So when this story came out in 2023, I think Zion and his significant other announced that they were pregnant and expecting a child. And that's seemingly what set off. I know you're calling her Jane Doe, but like this is public, so I'm not really that concerned with it. Is it pronounced Mariah Mills? It's probably Mariah Mills. This woman named Mariah Mills, who some could say makes some money, maybe not all of her money, makes some money in the adult entertainment industry, went into an online like rage. I think rage is probably the right word. And basically for like a 48-hour period, she was posting all the receipts, everything. So, we have no idea what happened. We don't know if the stuff's true, not true. We're not going to say anything else. But this girl, what is undisputed is that Mills went online and she posted a lot of tweets back to back about Zion, text messages about Zion. It's back and forth. It's Zion's communications with her. So if you look up Mariah Mills, Zion Williamson text messages, you can find them. I can't really read them. They're not that appropriate. But, use your judgment as to what Zion could be texting, allegedly Zion, someone in the adult entertainment industry. Pictures being sent, explicit pictures, you name it. The alleged texts have them. Okay. I'm sure there's at least some sicko that's pausing the podcast right now. Like, let me just see these things for research purposes. I just have to see these text messages. If we're recording properly, we had to look at them. There's nothing explicit in them, like picture wise. It's all I Googled. But listen, this is what we have. So Zion, this is the legal angle. Ready for this, Mike? Zion and allegedly Zion. We'll always say allegedly. Zion W in what is purported to be a text exchange between Mariah and Zion W. Zion says, delete that stuff. Delete the stuff, and I got you. And allegedly, the person that is purporting to be Mills says, why should I trust you? All you do is lie. I literally was so good to you. A blank trapped you. You're going to be a dad. So happy for you. And then the person that's allegedly Zion writes back, stop. That's for my to worry about. I'm sorry it happened, but why would you add to that fire? If you do that, I got you. So on and so forth. So, Mike, this is the part of the show. I think the listeners like when I every once in a while impromptu quiz you. I gave you a fact pattern. What has Zion asked Miss Mills to do here? Your legal brain should be triggering at this point.
Delete evidence? Is that where we're going here?
That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Um, so, it's unclear if she did, if she didn't. It's certainly possible if Zion is expressing that mindset, that Zion himself, again, this person alleged to have been Zion, maybe was deleting stuff on his own end. And that's the type of inquiry the lawyers for this case are now thinking about. Like, I believe the amount sought in this new June 2015 lawsuit is like 18 million, right? That territory? Something like that. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but relative to someone like Zion, who's working in the max contract territory, it's not as much as it is for mere mortals like you and I, Mike. Like you and I might drop $700 at a dinner, but certainly not even considering 18 million. It's a lot. It's a lot. But that's where we are. So we've talked about this, and it bears mentioning. If you're Zion Williamson, you're closer to the NBA elites, right? You're closer to the Shohei Ohtani territory versus a kicker or a Jonte Porter or this and that. So we've seen players get accused of far less, right? This is like, what are the underlying claims? It's like kidnapping, sexual assault, right? It's some bad claims.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. Very, very bad claims, kind of across the board. Rape, kidnapping, sexual assault, and abuse. I mean, it's really, and it's spanning over multiple years as well. I mean, this is from
Right.
a 3-4 year period.
Now, again, I haven't been canceled yet. I just like to talk to you guys as a lawyer. These text messages that are out that you guys have now looked at for research, some of you did. You can do it now. If you're my students, it's fine. It's over. It's all good. These text messages were taken at some point before, in theory, these alleged text messages in July of 2023. So I assume that these two have not really had any interaction since these texts came out. So the argument, and the lawyers for Zion have to look at these texts and they have to argue, hey, this is all full of shit. It's lovers quarrel gone bad. And look at these texts back in July of 2023. They don't say anything of the sort. They seem to show a consensual relationship, and she's just upset that Zion went out and had a child with another woman. Now 2 years later, they've retroactively converted to these claims. Where were these claims 2 years ago, right? So those are the type of allegations that are going to come out. And again, it's really messy, right? We don't want to be in the business of saying he said, she said, rape, kidnapping. Like, these are really ugly claims, but they involve a really high profile athlete. And at the time in July of 2023, people said, like, Zion had missed, he was missing time from the court from all these weird things. Like, he just was like mysteriously missing time, not because of an injury, just like no one really knew why he was out. And that's really been the story of Zion's career, just like unavailability. And, this is not clearing up that situation. And there are some players that we've talked about, like Deshaun Watson. Like, Deshaun Watson clearly was impacted, in a negative way by all the bad media attention on him. Zion Williamson has shown that he does not respond well to stories like these in the media of him, and get factor that in. So, I don't know how much more the story is going to come out. Zion's side, I would thinking the athlete that we know that is Zion Williamson is not going to make that many comments on this, but we'll see. I don't foresee him. This is my prediction. I'm happy to be wrong. I don't see him being suspended for this. I don't. I think there's too much evidence out there that there's a plausible case that this is consensual and these are retroactively changed. It's not like, the Deshaun Watson saga where I was pretty confident he was going to get suspended because these were random women, one-off situations versus someone that she appears to be admitting that they had a long-term consensual relationship with. So this doesn't seem to me, and again, not that it should matter, combined with the caliber of player that Zion Williamson is, I don't foresee him being suspended. I don't know what that barking means. We could be under attack from a deer here, but we'll leave it be.
Might be in agreement with you because I'm right there too. I mean, yeah, this is definitely a very different situation and kind of may reflect as to why Busby just decided not to, take part in this situation, as he has in the past with some other high profile athletes.
That's fair. I didn't even think about that. Busby gets a bad rep sometimes of being involved in all these weird cases, and he's chasing the big number. But I don't recall seeing a case that somehow was publicly reported that Busby turned down the representation. Mike, any guesses as to who might have leaked that story to TMZ?
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting, right? I don't think Mills is calling up TMZ like, "Hey, this lawyer doesn't want my case." Probably not her. I
No,
wonder. I wonder who else it could be.
I'd say not.
Yeah. I don't know. Just food for thought. Mike, anything else on this one before we move to Bauer?
No, let's head on over to, I mean, what's been a long-term update. This is long-term storytelling. I don't mean to make light of obviously situations like this, but this is definitely some long-term storytelling here.
Okay, so let's move on. Our third main topic, and we'll leave some stuff for the end. But we mentioned we had Bauer. So Bauer's a story that we've covered for many years. It's one of the core stories that brought a lot of listeners to the podcast once upon a time. I covered it in my class, did a lot of radio interviews on it. So I know the story pretty well. So if I think that there is a need for us to cover Bauer, safe to say that there is some relevant new information, and not just like Bauer and the accuser. And again, at this point, the name is out. It's been a couple years. Her name is Lindsay Hill. The name is out. I think there's some teachable things in here from a transactional perspective. So, in my ripe old age now, I'm trying to teach more. I'm tweeting less, doing less LinkedIn posts. I'm just trying to teach, do the podcast, play with my kids, coach some soccer, play some golf. Every once in a while, go to La Poisson Rouge like an absolute insane person. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got there. So let's talk about the update, and then we'll talk about this teachable moment here. So here's the headline. Headline is that Bauer is awarded $300,000 from Lindsay Hill from a default proceeding based on an alleged violation of Lindsay Hill's settlement agreement with Bauer. So unless you, maybe you're a new listener to the podcast, right? The story with Hill and Bauer, without getting into the whole deal, there was an allegation of sexual assault. It wasn't really a civil lawsuit at the time. It was a temporary restraining order. And Lindsay Hill alleged that there was some consensual meetup between her and Bauer. The rumors and innuendo is that Bauer engaged in what we'll say is a physical assault that resulted in a sexual assault, using physical violence. We had a lot of, kind of uncomfortable but important conversations on the podcast that, if someone is rendered unconscious because of the act of another person, they can't consent to certain things being done to them in the process. So use your imagination as to what I'm saying. Two consenting adults can consent to a lot of things. The law doesn't let you consent to that. So there's certain mindsets, being unconscious being one of them, where consent cannot be provided, or the consent is lost once you're rendered unconscious. So whatever. You guys can jump in the Google machine to figure out what I'm talking about. So anyway, the case goes on, and we report the good and the bad. Sometimes athletes are in the right, sometimes they're in the wrong. I've always said I'm not like a Trevor Bauer fan. He played for the Dodgers. He's just not really a likable guy. All this other stuff. I'm a Giants fan. Yada yada yada. But Bauer gets a really interesting decision from this California judge that says that the restraining order is denied because Lindsay Hill, I believe the quote was, had materially misleading testimony or text message testimony. But basically, the judge in this case said that Lindsay Hill was not being honest, and the dishonesty purported to these texts where she had text messages with her friend about, secure the bag, and whether she was joking or not, there was a conversation about, kind of like trapping Trevor Bauer and like making him her boyfriend or whatever it was. So anyway, again, to the point we just had about the Zion stuff, kind of a mixed bag. Like who was right, who was wrong. It wasn't that clear cut. But in the history of the record books, people generally assumed Trevor Bauer was right because the restraining order was denied. Trevor Bauer obviously hasn't gone back to baseball, so there was some adverse finding that Major League Baseball had against Bauer. They suspended him for 2 years. Maybe he did some other stuff, but vis-a-vis Lindsay Hill, she lost her case. So there was later, Mike, a civil case that was filed. Trevor Bauer alleging defamation for Lindsay Hill making up the story. Lindsay Hill countersued for sexual assault, and they have the civil case, the second battle. So we're going to figure out who's right? Mike, they settled the case, and the headline from that settlement, this was probably a couple years ago at this point, the settlement was neither side paid each other any money, and we thought it was odd. And Trevor Bauer put out this really long, like half an hour unedited video when he just like gave his version of events. And she did a lot of interviews. So like both sides got to say their piece, but the case was over. Okay. Fast forward. October of 2024, Trevor Bauer files a lawsuit saying that Lindsay Hill has violated this settlement agreement and she owes us $300,000. Mike, I love asking you this. I mean, I know the case. I know what happened. How do you think we got there?
To 300, to that number?
Yeah, that seems like pretty arbitrary.
I guess, attorney fees and the lack of a salary from the MLB. I don't know where they'd assume that would come from.
Well, let's go to our friends from the Los Angeles Times, and I don't know. Listen, some people come on the show, call them friends of the show. Bill Shaken, LA Times reporter, I think was on with us actually during the Trevor Bauer stuff. So he's one of the handful of people I get push notifications for when I'm trying to just figure out stuff about the world. So we'll say this. I don't want to get all the weeds. There's some weird stuff. Like, again, this is Bill Shaken's reporting. At the time, I had a lot of questions about this insurance policy that somehow it was being reported that Lindsay Hill collected on. So Lindsay Hill somehow, it was being reported, collected on an insurance policy like in the vicinity of $300,000. And I'm like, what insurance policy would trigger when you accuse someone of sexual assault, but you lose in court? That doesn't sound like any insurance policy that I know. It seems like the other way around. That doesn't make sense. So I just pulled up the article from Bill Shaken. I just want to read this because I always had curious about this insurance claim, and then we'll talk about this teachable moment. So this judge orders Lindsay Hill to pay $309,000 to Bauer, and you're right. It's for a combination of attorney's fees. What it appears to be like a penalty clause. You could call it liquidated damages. We'll talk about that. That's the teaching moment we'll talk about in a minute. What's being reported is 22 claims for 22 violations of the settlement agreement, just sort of like basically things she wasn't allowed to say, which I guess she did in interviews and tweets, again, allegedly, each being valued at, Mike, $10,000 each. That gets you to $220,000 pretty quick. And then attorney's fees, I think, get you the rest of the way there. It's probably the rough math. So I was curious at that number because I had recalled that number 300,000 being similar to what Lindsay Hill had received from her, allegedly from this insurance policy, which again didn't really make any sense to me. Okay, so Mike, this is part of the claim. Okay, so after that settlement, okay, they don't pay each other any money. Somehow Lindsay Hill gets $300,000, which I guess maybe we didn't know. I just whatever. Apparently we didn't know this. We knew this. Whatever. So this is from Bill Shaken's Los Angeles Times article. After the settlement, Hill claimed on social media that Bauer, quote, handed back an insurance sum to me that was meant for him in order for me to drop my countersuit. So that's odd, right? What Lindsay Hill is claiming is that the insurance policy wasn't her insurance policy. It was Bauer's insurance policy, and that Bauer's insurance policy paid him $300,000, and that money was, quote, handed back to her to drop the countersuit. That's interesting. That's very different from a lawsuit that settled for no money to either side. It sounds a lot like Trevor Bauer paid $300,000 for her to go away.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Like
strangely sounds a lot like
yeah.
it. And again, like, I remember thinking at the time, why is she dropping this lawsuit for $1? What does she gain by that unless she has such a weak case? So the combination, again, credit Bauer's lawyers, the combination of like, no one can talk about how much money the settlement is worth, and Bauer settling, it seems like she just thought the claims were weak. So Lindsay Hill, went on and she went on a podcast. She did social media, 22 claims in total, each at $10,000 each. That's how you get to $220,000. So here's the teachable moment, right? And Lindsay Hill has her own prerogative. She says she's not fighting. She didn't want to fight the case. She didn't want to engage in the case, but she's going to appeal it. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. Why are you going to appeal the case if you didn't fight the case on the default? That doesn't really make any sense, but I don't know. I can't really make sense of that. You're either going to pay it or you're not. And if you're going to fight it on appeal, why on earth would you not contest on the default proceeding? That just sounds backwards, but I'm sure we don't know everything. So here's the teachable moment, right? At some point in respective careers, you're going to get presented with a settlement agreement. A lot of settlement agreements are going to be boilerplate, nonsensical language, choice of law, arbitration clauses, whatever. There's a lot of boilerplate stuff, full releases, whether the claims are unknown, known, there's a lot of stuff, right? If you want to try to sneak one by the other attorney, you put in what's called these liquidated damages clause. You say for every violation of this agreement, be it confidentiality or non-disparagement, you say because it is so unknown as to what the damages would be and it's hard to calculate, every time you violate this agreement, we're going to charge you X amount of dollars. You know, I never allow that. I tell anybody that tries to put that in my agreements, it's an absolute deal breaker. We're just not doing that. We're not letting you take us to court, take us to arbitration, and claim a fucking 100 violations of something just to leverage us into a settlement. You're going to have to go to court and you're going to have to prove damages. So if we think it's a nonsensical violation, that's fine. We're not proving that for us. So that's seemingly what Bauer's lawyers did. So you could give another credit to them, or you could say shame on them and how dare they sneak that in. And I'm sure they didn't sneak it in. I'm sure it was bold and obvious what they were doing. And the judge viewed it to be, right, on a default. There's no one on the other side contesting it. Case went through. The judge awarded $309,000 in damages based on that seemingly that liquidated damages clause. So, yeah, I mean, among a number of things that you have to watch out for in these cases, liquidated damages, you got to avoid them like the plague. That should just be ringing sirens when you see a dollar sign in the penalty clause.
Well, Professor Dan Lust, thank you, Professor Lust. You just had a student on, and now you got me as a student on today. I like it. Thank you.
Mike, I'm dying. I'm fading. Okay. Let's do this quick. We get the nanny. I got to be off in like 5 minutes. Nanny's coming on. Your boy is just not doing well. Okay. Mike, I feel like you have a what to watch for me.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I mean, the Knicks. Hugely. I think that's a bigger topic. So I do want to shout out the conduct detrimental law student board. We did just finish year one, really complete of a full cycle of everyone. We went through first interviews for the new recruitment and for regional reps and the exec board. So finally in full swing for another year, and looking forward to symposiums, writing competitions, and a whole lot more. And hopefully we can get some collaboration as well with these events we're talking about out with conduct detrimental. But that's number one first and foremost. And then the Knicks, of course, firing their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. There's odds on who the next coach is going to be. Who's obviously, for me, who's going to win the finals is very important to me. But the Knicks, I mean, come on.
I don't care who wins the finals. I don't care at all.
Well, come on. It's a first time winner for either one. It's kind of cool. I mean, neither one have ever won a true NBA title.
I guess I'm rooting for the Thunder by default, but
for sure.
I'm still in mourning. So maybe in a couple games I'll care, fair. But I don't care. Until the Pacers win a game or two and it's a competitive series, I don't care. We're going to maybe talk about it in a different episode. I thought the Tibbs firing was insane. You get to the semis and you get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You have back-to-back 50 wins for the first time in like 25 years. Basketball is relevant in New York for like the first time, I don't know, since the Melo Knicks in like 2012, 2013 with Mike Woodson. I don't know. I love the stability that we've had with the Knicks, stability everywhere, and we're improving year over year. I don't like introducing something new to the equation. I just think it's stupid. But in my research and my doom scrolling of figuring out the historical precedents for this, people point out the Larry Brown Pistons, how they took over from Carlisle, and you just sometimes need a fresh face to get them over the top. We can even talk about the Ime Udoka Celtics. Once they change the coach, it gets them over to the top. So I don't know. We might be singing a different tune this time next year, but we'll see. Mike, I have let's see how long my voice lasts. So I did an event yesterday in the city. I saw a bunch of listeners and friends from really LinkedIn. LinkedIn's like this big universe. I'll shout out a couple. I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but they're my peeps. Jonathan Adler, who's works at MSG. We had Kevin Tarka, who's a basketball agent overseas. I was with one of my clients, Jake O'Donnell, who was in town from Florida. He's going to yell at me that I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I think it's Jack Lichting. But he was one of the producers of the movie of the Spoils movie, the high school basketball movie I was in once upon a time. But there's a really good crew. And Brendan Duggan, obviously friend of the show, Brendan Duggan was there. So this community event was called Profluence Sports Business Event. It's not an event. It's not a group that I'm like on the board of or anything. So I like to go to others' events. I want to see how it's done. I want to see how they do it. And this event was very well done. So if you're listening to this and you're not a lawyer, you just want to meet sports people in the scene, I thought this was interesting. There is a charge. Like, we don't charge people for our conduct stuff, but there's a charge to be a member. But it's interesting. I'll give them a free shout out here. So I'm not full disclosure, I'm not a member, but I have a bunch of friends that were. I showed up to the event to give it a look, and it was interesting. So, and that's me saying that despite being not in the best shape from having gone out with said attendees to said event. So, is what it is. Okay, Mike, I have one what to watch for you to end the show. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
So I have some friends in my town. These are, we have like a little gambling contingency. We share bets. And I have been ice cold in my UFC bets. So cold, in fact, that this group, which involves 3 other people, they have taken, whenever I give a UFC bet, they just fade it. And they're hitting at an alarming rate. So it's my obligation to share this bet. You could say, Dan, I'm going to take it. I believe in you. Or you're free to fade it, because it's now become the running joke of this group that, like, I just give these huge plus money winners because I like betting the big favorite at this with some juice, minus 300, minus 275, minus 400. I like winning, but I'm not winning in UFC. I'm laying a lot of juice and I'm losing. Mike, here's the bet this weekend. This is my bet. If you guys want to fade it, by all means, it's a high profile fight. It is Merab Dvalishvili fighting for the belt against Sugar Sean O'Malley. You know Sugar Sean?
Yeah, of course.
I feel like you do. Sugar Sean's one of the more high profile guys. Oh, yeah. Merab is from Georgia, but he got his kind of fighting career started in Long Island, so I'm partial to him. He's a minus 275 favorite. He won the belt the last time they fought. Sean, has been on the mend. He got surgery, whatever. He's coming back this big title fight. Dana's giving him a rematch. You could get Sugar Sean to win at plus 300 if you want it. I'm rolling with Merab minus 275. I'm laying a decent amount of juice. I think it's free money. But then again, I am ice cold. So cold that I'm probably recommending you all to fade me on this podcast. So that's the bet. I could be giving you much worse at plus 300, but my picking radar has been off. That's it. That's all I want to tell you. So that's the bet. My bet. Merab minus 275. You want to take Sugar Sean? By all means, plus 300. That's the bet. Mike, I got to pop an Advil cold and sinus. Maybe a cold compress. We got to get on the mend, Mike. We got to get on the mend.
Yeah, let's get out of here and get to the pharmacy for you.
Yeah, speaking of pharmacy, I know you're going to the pharmacy too, so don't pretend you're all healthy. Don't be bragging about your health, Mike.
I got some, real bad rashes on my arms. It's tough being outdoors.
You poison ivy guy?
I don't think it's poison ivy, but
you know what? Let's not commit a HIPAA violation. We'll keep it kosher. Yeah, okay. Any event. Mike, you're the best. We'll put this in the books, and let's hope somebody has a winning ticket somewhere. And how about this, Mike? If someone sends me a winning ticket or a losing ticket, first one to do it, you can bet $1 minimum. There might be something in store for you. That's it. Okay, that'll do it for us here at Conduct Detrimental. As always, we love sports law. Sports law loves us, and we love you. You like that sign off, Mike? Let's keep it in. And we'll see you next time on another episode of the Sports Law Podcast, Conduct Detrimental.